4th grade, we're going to go ahead and get started on subtracting mixed numbers with like denominators. If you have a piece of blank paper, go ahead and grab it. Please put this at the top of your paper there, and off to the side, I'm going to put today's date. Today's date is the 19th. Alright, so we talked about how to subtract just regular fractions, but we haven't talked yet about how to subtract mixed numbers. We're going to start with mixed numbers that have like denominators, meaning their denominators are going to be the same number. So I'm going to start with number 1. Okay, and I'm going to write, let's do 9 4/5 minus 5 2/5. Now the way we're going to do this is we're going to tackle it kind of the same way that we did when we added the mixed numbers, except this time we're going to be subtracting them. So I'm going to start with my whole numbers. That is what I'm going to subtract first. So when I subtract 9 minus 5, I'm going to get 4. Alright, then what I'm going to do is take care of the fraction portion. Now remember, when we subtract fractions, the bottom number is going to remain the same, that's my denominator, and I subtract the numerator. So 4 minus 2 gives me 2. So 9 4/5 minus 5 2/5 is 4 2/5. Alright, let's try another one. I'm actually going to have you pause the video, and you're going to try it on your own, and then play the video and see if our answers match. Let me give you the problem first. Let's do 12 and let's do 6/7 minus 8 2/7. Alright, so go ahead, pause the video, and see if our answers match in just a moment. So what I'm going to do is first handle my whole numbers. Okay, so 12 minus 8, that's going to give me 4. And then I'll take care of the fraction portion. The denominator stays the same. And I do 6 minus 2, that gives me 4. So 12 6/7 minus 8 2/7 is 4 4/7. Alright, what we're going to take a look at next is a little bit different. Let's do 10 3/8 minus 5 5/8. Okay. Now, we're going to start the same way. Actually, no. Sorry, rewind. I want you to notice something before we get started. The fractions, this one is bigger than this guy. I'm not going to be able to do 3 minus 5 because 5 is bigger. So here's what I'm going to do. Do you know how, and I'm going to do this as an example off to the side. Do you know how when you are subtracting, let's just do this as an example, 30 minus 19. I can't do 0 minus 9. So what do? I go over to this guy and I borrow. I take 1 away from him and I give it to this guy and make him a 10. And then that way I'm able to subtract like normal. I'm going to do something very similar. I'm going to borrow from my whole number. So I'm going to borrow from him just like I would do in regular subtraction. I'm going to turn him into a 9. Okay? So when I take away 1, I'm going to think to myself, all right, I'm adding 1 whole onto this number. Well, 1 whole, if I'm dealing with eighths, would be 8/8. So this is really like I'm doing 8/8 plus 3/8. So that would become 11/8. And I can do 11/8 minus 5/8. So let's go ahead. Now we can do it. I'm actually going to rewrite this. Not as 10 3/8, but as 9 11/8. And I can now take my whole numbers and subtract these. I would get 4 for 9 minus 5. And then if I look at the fractions, I can go ahead and subtract those. I would get 6/8. And there we go. But I do notice 6/8, that can be simplified. So instead of 4 6/8, this would be 4 and divide 2, 3/4. All right, let's try another one like that. I'm going to have you do one more with me, and then we'll do one where you try it on your own. All right. So let's do 13 and 2/5 minus 2 and 4/5. So I notice the fraction portion of my mixed number of the first one is smaller. So I am going to have to borrow. So I'm going to borrow 1 away from him. This is going to become 12. And I'm going to be adding 5/5 onto my 2/5. So this really would become 7/5. So I'm just going to rewrite these down underneath. So this is like 12 and 7/5 minus 2 and 4/5. Okay? These are the same fraction. They represent the same number, but I've just rewritten it in a way where I can subtract 4/5 from 7/5. Because I couldn't do 2 minus 4, but I can do 7 minus 4. So let's take a look at these guys. We're going to subtract them first. That would give me 10. And if I subtract these guys, that gives me 3/5. Okay. So I am going to have you try one on your own. I'm just going to go ahead and put 5 underneath here. Now I want you to pause the video and give this one a try on your own. And then once you're done, go ahead and hit play and see if our answers are the same. Let me give you the problem first. That might be helpful. Let's do 22 and 1/4 minus 11 and 3/4. Okay? So go ahead, pause, and once you're done, go ahead and hit play, see if our answers match. So I'm noticing that this is smaller than this fraction. So I am going to have to borrow. So I'm going to turn this guy into 21 and give that 1 whole over here. So that's like 4/4. And I'm adding on that 1/4 so I can really treat this like 5/4. And I'm just going to rewrite it down here as 21 and 5/4 minus 11 and 3/4. Now I can subtract. Let's do these two first. That would give me 10. And let's get these guys. That would give me 2/4. but I notice that I can reduce 2/4. So instead of 10 and 2/4, it would be 10 and 1/2. Be careful when you're reducing. You want to rewrite both the whole number and the fraction. All right, not just the fraction portion, because if I write 10 and 2/4 equals 1/2, well, 10 and 2/4 doesn't equal 1/2. Where'd the 10 go? So we want to make sure you write it this way. All right, so what you're going to do now is you're going to go ahead and head over to IXL and you're going to practice the skills that we did here. 10 to 15 minutes is all you need for practice.